Phil is an amazing mentor, and that's one of the reasons he was chosen as the Mark Melvin Prescribed Burner of the Year last year for all the work that he does, not only for rare and endangered species, but getting people excited about going into conservation. So he's got a beautiful slideshow to highlight some of the successes on state parks.
Thank you, Shan. Yeah, 2003, that was when I went through my first fire academy as a youngster. And Shan's been one of my mentors. There's several mentors in this room. It's kind of beyond measure. But they've all really helped me, even though we're all the same age. Like I'm the same age as the people I call my mentors. They all taught me so much about this field and made what we do kind of possible in Georgia State Parks. So I'm the Northern Resource Manager for State Parks. So I kind of help plan not just the burning, but kind of the land management type practices we do in the northern part of the state. I don't have any of the southern state on there because this is a Northern Prescribed Fire Council meeting, but I have a southern counterpart who does the same for that big area in the south part of the state. So I actually have more parks in the north to work with, but that person will have a lot more distance between parks in the south. So that's a pretty big chunk of area in South Georgia. But if you are from the northern part of the state, there's certainly some challenges up here. And there's certainly a lot of places that need not just fire, but ecological management in the northern part of the state. It seems to get a little bit more traction in the south because of the culture of burning in the south part of the state, the wiregrass, the longleaf habitat down there. But there's a lot of ecosystems in the north that also require fire. So these are all the sites in the northern part of the state that I'm involved with helping plan prescribed fire. So they range all the way up from Cloudland Canyon, all the way down to Chattahoochee Bend, which is Coweta County, and Mistletoe, which is near Augusta, and anywhere north of that. So that's kind of the area that I work in. Georgia, we have 60 properties that we manage. See if I'm forgetting anything here. I didn't bring my glasses either, so I have to read off the big screen. But yeah, our habitats, which is really important, they range from the prairies, prairie glades, the montane longleaf pine ecosystems, pine hardwood savannas. So these are some of the places that we look at when we're looking at prescribed fire. And as one might expect, burning in the northern part of the state, it's a little bit more populated than what we have in the south. I think it was John Kennedy, who said that we don't do things because they're easy, we do things because they're hard. Now, I'm not comparing burning at Sweetwater Creek or Pickett's Mill Battlefield to landing on the moon. There's probably some things I will compare it to that I can't utter up here because it would be unprofessional. But take a look at those maps. Sweetwater Creek, that area behind that's just south of the Chattahoochee River there, that's Fulton Industrial Boulevard. That's just jam-packed. And surrounding the park boundaries now are even more places. This map doesn't reflect how many new apartments have gone up since this image was made, which was recently. So that's always kind of our challenge in the north. Pickett's Mill Battlefield, we talk about smoke modeling. Where can you burn there where you're not going to put smoke on somebody? So it's really interesting, but we don't do things because they're easy. We do things because they should be done. And these areas have really important habitat on them that we're trying to keep and preserve. And we try to use all those tools that you've heard about today, like the weather modeling. We use the North Carolina site to look at fuel moistures a lot. So we use a lot of these tools to help us predict or kind of use them tools to sort of, I guess, pick the best day to burn these areas where we're going to create the least amount of smoke as possible for all these surrounding places. If you look at the map there, it kind of looks like the tracks of southern pine bark beetle. If you peel the bark back on a pine, that's got them. So we'll start with the northwest part of the state, the Cumberland Plateau. We've got a couple of sites at this park. It's not an easy place to burn because of, not so much because of the area around the park being developed a lot. It's just hard to make burn units there at that site because of the topography. So we have a few areas that we're working in right now. One is a meadow that we've been working in for quite a while. It's only 5 acres. The other 2 areas are kind of woodland / kind of remnant prairie habitat. So the meadow, which is like 5 acres, kind of small, right? But it's really cool. When I first got this job and looked at this meadow at Cloudland, I saw a lot of these really nice plants coming up, but they kept mowing it. Like, can you guys maybe not mow it during the summertime and let it bloom in the fall and then mow it? And they said, yeah, we could do that. They just have trails and stuff through it. But this is what it looks like in August. I mean, it's just incredible. And most of these plants are native. We have native thistles. We have several species of goldenrod. We have ironweed. So for me, as someone who really is into pollinators, this is like Candyland. And the prairie habitat there. It's under a power line. This power line is owned by the Tennessee Valley Authority. So I have to call them when I burn and get permissions. They're always worried about arcing and stuff, which, I understand that. So in 2023, we kind of identified a unit here that we could make and burn this area. So the picture on your left is the actual burn day. So we're burning on this power line. The picture in the middle is what it looked like after the burn. And the picture on the far right, that's in the summer after the burn. So all that purple is blazing star. We have black-eyed Susans, we have coreopsis, we have lady's tresses, fly poison, just all kind of, there's several swap species, statewide action plan species here. There's Cumberland gentian. We've since found wood lily here since we started burning, and it wasn't known to be on this tract of land right here on the power line. It's in other places in the park, but it wasn't known to be on this site. Several butterflies that are also statewide action plan species, and a couple of bees that are also statewide action plan species. So granite gooseberry, which is another interesting plant, also a swap species. So there's a lot of cool stuff just in this little tiny power line. And here's some pictures. The wood lily, of course, is incredibly pretty and showy. The Cumberland gentian we knew was there. It was there before we burned. It's just after we burned, there was a heck of a lot more of it. That's a picture of my wife kind of meandering through the blazing star, counting butterflies with me. And the bottom pictures are just some of the different plants there, black-eyed Susans, blazing star. Of course, monarch butterfly, really important species now, could be filed as a federally threatened species pretty soon, maybe. So yeah, and big bluestem. When I saw big bluestem out there, I about fainted. I'm kind of a plant nerd too. Especially for grasses. But when I see big bluestem on an area, it reminds me of a place that hasn't been disturbed that much because it doesn't really seem to like a whole lot of disturbance. So all these plants together kind of make me think this is a really cool area. We really need to take care of it. And burning really awoke a lot of this stuff. So in the Ridge and Valley, we have James H. Floyd State Park, which has also some really important habitat in it. There's some longleaf pine there. And for several years, I was scratching my head trying to figure out where's the mother tree? Because all these trees are about 20 years old or so. They weren't even producing cones. So I'm like, where's the mother at? There's got to be a big tree around here somewhere. Well, it turns out that this area had had a beetle kill in the 1990s. I had to go way back to the park managers who had worked there. I had to dig them out of retirement to find out what the heck happened here. It's like solving a detective case. But they said there was a pine beetle outbreak here, and GFC planted longleaf pine, and it was kind of forgotten about for a while. And then in 2013, I was on a burn here. The manager at the time was pretty proactive for burning, and he knew about these longleaf pines, so he started trying to burn this area. And we've been trying to manage it since. Fire's a great tool, but it's not a magic bullet. So we've been kind of looking at these areas for a while, and kind of planning what we were going to do, what we want the area to look like. So the longleaf pine is getting stifled by a lot of hardwood trees, a lot of sweet gum, a lot of maple. These things grow up really fast, and without fire, there was no way to kind of suppress that competition. So also by burning, we found that we have such a diverse understory in these areas. So we're kind of looking at both. We're looking at the longleaf pine, but we're also looking at this herbaceous understory that we want. And at the time we started burning here in 2013, and then fast forward that to 2019, there were several years between burns there. There wasn't a whole lot going on in the understory, and there's a lot of weeds. So the picture on the far right, if I'd taken this picture a couple years before, it was almost solid Lespedeza, the bad Lespedeza, cuneata. So we sprayed that, and when we did, it actually worked pretty well. We used Garland and Escort on it. And then we have all this native grass coming back in. And to kind of complement the burning, because again, fire is a great tool, but it's not a magic bullet. We have to kind of figure out ways of reducing the competition around these longleaf if we want them to do better, and hopefully reproduce someday. Now, the cool thing about Sloppy Floyd, I had to ask our forestry folks, Mike Davis in particular, where's longleaf in relation to this park? Is it really here? And he says, yeah, it's within 3 miles of Sloppy Floyd State Park. There's a relic population of longleaf pine, meaning it's like original. No one planted it. It's like 3 miles from the park. So it's definitely a habitat we want to preserve at this site. And the park's doing a great job of like leading hikes and stuff and showing people these areas now. So we're trying to use fire and mechanical treatments to kind of thin out the woods a little bit around the longleaf. And you could see in this picture, the basal barking is going to kill stuff that's sort of like 6 inches in diameter. So when I say basal barking, it's basically using an oil. You could order this through some of the different companies around here. We use Nutrien, but Red River Specialties. You can probably even get it from Amazon. So we get these barrels of this oil, it's bark oil, and it's got a dye in it. And you mix some Garland 4 and some, just a little tiny bit of imazapyr. And we've had some pretty good success killing some of the trees that are near the longleaf pine that are about 6 inches in diameter or so. And the bigger trees, we girdle them. We basically run a chainsaw around them and spray them with a mix of Garland, 10% imazapyr, 50% Garland, the rest water. And we've had some really good success doing that. We're opening up gaps in the woods in this area, and we're starting to see a pretty good herbaceous response. Another good thing about our Northern Park model is we burn with a lot of partners. And the U.S. Forest Service has been an outstanding help with us. That's Jeff Sharp in that picture. Jeff, one of the good things about working with these partners is the transfer of information, especially for newbies like me. That's where I learned about the North Carolina Fire Intelligence Portal was from Jeff. So I use it all the time now too when I'm doing my burn planning. So being able to work with these other agencies and get their what they're doing is really important. Chattahoochee Bend State Park is down in Coweta, so that's the Piedmont. And it's a really, really interesting park. If you've never been there, I suggest you go visit, walk around. It's got granite outcrops on it. It's got kind of some more open loblolly pine tree stands. It's got the montane longleaf pine. And if you're not familiar with montane longleaf pine here in North Georgia, it's part of a G2 community, which means it's globally imperiled. There's just not much of it left. There's probably not much of it to begin with. But during settlement and European colonization and populations growing, what used to be a little bit is now a lot less. So these little tiny islands are really important, I think, to maintain as habitat. So Chattahoochee Bend has some of that habitat, and we're working really hard to keep it. But it's got some really cool meadows. We've been working a lot with trying to keep those in native vegetation. And prescribed fire, again, is a great tool. We've had some amazing fire effects. But one thing I do want to kind of call your attention to is the bottom right-hand picture of all those people. So I'd say probably 7 of those are state parks crew. The rest of those are eco volunteers. So we rely a lot in the northern part of Georgia, state parks, on volunteers, people who come out and help us burn. And it's really interesting because you never know who's going to show up. Like, and we take on all comers. If you got to go through Shan to make sure all your trainings and certificates are complete. But once you're good on her end, she'll send your information to us. We send out an email blast to people, like every time we burn. Like, do you want to come burn with us? We have a spreadsheet. You sign your name up. And if you're willing to come out and burn, we're willing to take you. We never turn anybody away unless we have like 30 people or something. Like, we might be like, well, you might want to try another burn. But you can see in this picture, there's a lot of folks there helping us burn. And we have a lot of mixtures of, professional experience, but also a lot of private landowners as well. We have Malcolm Hodges in there who helped us burn at this site. And he had like 30 or 40 years of fire experience and was a burn boss with the Nature Conservancy. But we also have a lot of new people who've never really burned but a couple times before. So we get a nice mix of people, and it's always a great learning experience. I can't stress that enough, because you're going to be with somebody who has some seasoned experience. So we always try to pair people who are new with people who've been doing this for a while. If you come to a few burns with Northern Georgia State Parks, you're probably going to get a pretty well-rounded foundation, because you're going to burn with a lot of different folks, and they're all going to teach you something different. These are some of the interesting plants that we've found at Chattahoochee Bend. The pink lady slippers. A lot of people say, like, don't burn in pink lady slippers, you'll kill them. And there might be some truth to that. I am not a plant biologist. I like plants a lot. I like to look at fire, effects on plants and their responses. But we didn't even know these lady slippers were in this burn unit until we burned it a couple times. And I think they counted like 100 stems, for that site, which was pretty incredible. Like, we didn't even know it was there. And after we burned it a couple times, like, they found all these lady slippers. They've also found nodding trillium in that same site. It's not a rare plant, but spotted bee balm, the response from this plant, which is an incredible pollinator plant, was it really exploded after we started burning. Georgia aster, of course, longleaf pine is on the site. Butterfly milkweed, we're seeing a lot more of that now. And bergamot, which is a relative to spotted bee balm. There's some glades we burned there recently, and the response from the bergamot's incredible. These things attract species like the dinofrillary butterfly. Dinofrillaries are pretty rare. They're a swap species. I think they're a swap species of concern, or great concern, because there's just not that many of them left. And this one's way down south for its range. Like, they're usually up in North Georgia, especially Northeast Georgia. But here's one down kind of almost like mid-Southwest Georgia, Coweta County. So if you know me, I'm going to talk about butterflies a little bit. So the dinofrillary is really interesting. That's its range map. It's a sexually dimorphic butterfly. The top picture is the female. She's blue and black. The male looks completely different. He's orange and brown. And these are big butterflies. I mean, these are what you call charismatic megafauna. Like, they're big and they're pretty and they're showy and they're pretty friendly. Like, once they're nectaring, you can walk right up to them and take their pictures. but they are disappearing pretty quick. So there's some good papers, scientific papers, if you want to indulge in that subject on these butterflies. So one was from the Appalachian population. There's also a population like in Arkansas. So the first paper is by the Consortium of Appalachian Fire Managers and Scientists. They had study sites based on size, age, cover type. There was untreated or a control area, and then they had fire, and then they had fire with mechanical work. Basically, what that paper concluded is if you're using fire, you're helping the butterfly. Like they found a lot more butterflies of this species in that burned area than the unburned area, because the response from the nectar plants was better. And if you use fire and mechanical treatment, that was even better still, because you're opening up the woods. All of a sudden, there's this herbaceous response. So of course, that's going to help the butterflies. The other paper, which was from Arkansas, they found that in these plant communities where they burn more, they had a bigger response from the plants that this butterfly likes to nectar on. That includes like purple coneflower, butterfly milkweed, mountain mint, monarda, which is the bergamot. And I've noticed in Georgia, 5 minutes left. Oh my gosh, I thought it was going to be short. Get me talking about butterflies. So, in a nutshell, these plants that the butterfly uses respond well after fire. And I've seen this in the field. So reading it later, I'm like, yeah, that kind of confirms it. I saw this kind of happening. So the fritillaries have a weird kind of life cycle. The males emerge first. They're well ahead of the females. The females emerge second. It's a weird thing. I don't know why nature selected them that way. The females live a lot longer into the summer and fall, and then they lay their eggs. They only mate once, apparently. But they'll lay their eggs near the host plant, which are violets. The caterpillars don't eat the violets. They just crawl up to the violet, and they sleep the rest of the winter. They don't eat at all. And then when spring comes, they wake up, and they're like, I'm hungry. And then they start eating. So it's kind of an interesting life cycle. Mountain State Park in the Piedmont. I'll just kind of go through these quickly. It's a big grassland. We started this project in the early 2000s, so it's well over 20 years old now. I do want to point out the volunteers there who've helped us plant plants. I've grown a lot of plants at home. I don't really separate work from play too much. So I grew a lot of plants at home and brought them there for volunteer days so we could plant wildflowers in this beautiful grassland. And like around 2007, Nathan Klaus kind of took over this project from Parks. And we had like 7 acres established in grassland at that point. And I think he did the other 150. So they've done the lion's share of the work. But we've always worked together on this area. And it never finishes. Like there's always maintenance to do on these sites. He commissioned a banding station there at the time, so they're still there. They're still banding birds every couple of weeks. These are some of the birds that they've gotten in the banding station. The top sparrows are pretty rare, so it's really good to see those. These are things that have really increased over time at this site with the quality of the grassland improving. We've also done a lot of woodland work there, doing a lot of tree girdling on this site as well. Working with partners like Birch, Georgia a lot on this site. Again, butterflies, couldn't help it. Had to put that in there. We could get up to 50 species of butterfly in this one grassland. So grasslands and woodlands are important for just about all the pollinators. I can't stress that enough. Mistletoe State Park in the Piedmont, open woodland habitats there that we've been managing. Also girdling some trees there, combining that with fire. Burning and herbicide work kind of creates this nice open woodland kind of experience. The diversity of the community has really improved there since we started burning. We're finding things like Indian grass that we never knew were there or hadn't seen there before, and now it's there in pretty good abundance. Working with the Corps of Engineers, they've done some work really close by on their property managing longleaf pine. Again, there's relic populations of longleaf within 10 miles of Mistletoe State Park, which I didn't know until a couple of years ago. So we've been working a lot with them. They've clear cut some areas that had beetle damage. And we're working with them on replanting longleaf in a lot of these sites to bring it back. So fire and mechanical work provide wildlife opportunities. That's what I'm going to leave you on with this slide. So thank you all. And I doubt I have time for questions. I do.
Thank you.